These are my cats, Sil and Vin, and for the next week, they are going to choose what I read from my TBR. Now, you guys have already seen them in a ton of videos and vlogs where they're creating chaos, destroying microphone filters, or just hanging around as I get my reading done. And I am hoping that because they are always hanging around and they somewhat know my book taste, that they make great choices on this upcoming week and potentially find me a new favorite book. Now, what I'm thinking we can do is give each cat a choice of book, meaning their own battle to choose from, so that each cat chooses a book. I mean, engaging the books are for the upcoming week, so we'll figure it out together, but at least every cat will be included, every cat will participate, and it will overall be a very cute and wholesome time. If you're looking for a cat-centric video to give you a boost of serotonin, this will be the one. And I am so happy to say that not only are the cats actually helping me pick out my TBR for the next week, but this video is sponsored by Pretty Litter, which has been the cat's go-to litter for the past year. About a year ago, I started experiencing a lot of issues with cat litter, and a lot of those dust clouds that cat litters typically kick up started giving me allergies and skin itches, so I quickly got to researching to see what my options were, and I stumbled across Pretty Litter. I tried it out, and I have not looked back since. Their litter is compounded by ultra. They always tell me, hey, if I didn't see the cats around, I wouldn't know that you had any because it doesn't smell like anything. The super light crystals also help with the mess and the dust clouds when the cats are covering their tracks and their business. It's just overall such a good option to make, so you really don't have to worry about changing the litter constantly. I think especially because it evaporates all of the pee and you really only have to worry about removing the stools on a daily basis. It really is the best of the best. But truly the coolest thing about Pretty Litter is their color changing technology that helps you track and monitor, including early signs of urinary tract infection, but also kidney issues. And actually last year I noticed that Vin was peeing kind of weirdly, and so me being the warrior that I am, I immediately took her to the vet, and immediately they told me that baby girl was extremely dehydrated and that's why she had peed that way. And so we immediately got her fixed up, patched up, but had it not been for Pretty Litter, I probably would have taken longer to find out. Pretty Litter also ships free to my door every single month on a super lightweight bag. I'd also like to know that when I switched the cats over to Pretty Litter from their previous one, it literally had no issues at all. I think it made the switch over extremely easy and they immediately took to this new litter and they now love it. So if you'd like to keep tabs on your cat's health and keep odors down and join me in my journey with Pretty Litter, you can save 20% on your first order and get a free cat toy with code MEL at prettylitter.com/MEL. Everything will be linked at the top of the description, and thank you so much to Pretty Litter for partnering with me today and getting our cats on. So let's get to choosing our first book. So I took out everything that I've already read from my TBR, and these are the things that we have got left over. I really don't know what to choose. I know there are certain books that I am saving up for other videos, but for the things I've got available to me, I really don't know where to go. So we have got things like Song of the Six Realms, which could be a good option. We have got things like Leather and Lark, Ruthless Vows, which is a series that I also need to finish. And then we have also got Shadow of Night and then the Thursday Murder Club. So I think choices need to be made on where exactly to go for our first book. But I'm thinking something like the Thursday Murder Club could be good to start out with, alongside maybe Song of the Six Realms. So let us choose our first cat, our first player, and choose our first book here. And then I am going to put a treat upon both of them. And the books are probably going to be a slobbery mess by the end, but it's going to be okay. Eso, which book do you want? Oh, she found it. Guys, she found it. She's eating one. I think she's coming in for the second one. I think she's coming in for her second treat. I don't know if she realizes that she's got another one just laying out there. Oh, she found it. Ladies and gents, welcome to the first book of the video, Song of the Six Realms. Down to chat about this book, girlfriend. I love that my hair is looking unruly again. I feel like I blow dry it every morning and then it's right back to looking like a lion's mane. I truly am convinced that I just need to chop it all off and that I need, in one of these videos, I just show up with half my hair gone. Don't be surprised. That said, for Song of the Six Realms, I don't know what to do with this book. I started it on Tuesday. Today's Thursday. I'm exactly 70 pages in. I haven't been able to break through the 100-page mark because every every time I sit down to read this book, I fall asleep even if I'm not sleepy. I have encountered the writing to be very methodical and a bit emotionless, and I have found that a lot of the plot beats presented thus far in the story are exactly that. They're just beats to hit, but they're not adding any emotion or any real stakes to the story in a way that would make me care and feel invested into the main character and what is happening in her story. Follow our main character Jouet, who is a musician who works at the House of Flowing Water. She works there to pay off a debt, so it's very much indentured servantry. She doesn't know if she'll ever see a day out of this house and when her mistress will say, "Today you are let go," and the debt. However, one day Duke Meng requests an audience with her, and she's never seen this man before, so she doesn't quite know what he wants. She essentially realizes that if she plays a bit of music and holds conversation up pretty well, that'd be the extent of it, but turns out that what he wants is to invite her on a stay at his estate, and what the premise says that we haven't seen yet in the first 70 pages is that it turns out he's basically one of the rulers of the Celestial Realm, and the whole guise of inviting her to his estate is basically for her to go to the Celestial Realm to help restore it to what it once was. And so far it's been just okay. The first 70 pages have been very much this happened and now this happened. I was a child, now I'm a teenager, talking to my uncle, now this event happened and now that event happened. And it's so very methodical, moving from into the story, fully settle into the character and her relationships with people. And I personally don't really love that type of writing style, so I'm really struggling to connect with this whole thing so far. However, I am riding out a streak right now of having read 3 books so far in July, of which 2 were not so good, and I don't think I can bear the idea of another miss, especially because this is another one of my anticipated releases, and I am sadly seeing a pattern with the books that I was anticipating this year, and it is not very fun. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is get through these next 30 pages physically, and then switch to the audiobook or keep reading physically depending on how I'm feeling, but I'm hoping that these next 30 pages kick up. The book is 376 pages, which basically leads me to think that I need to read about 180 something pages before I get to the 50% just going into the chair. But 376 pages divided by 2, yeah, 188 pages is where I need to get to the 50% mark. So we'll see if it starts getting better at that point in time. This is a Patreon book club pick. I typically try and not DNF these so that we can have a good discussion, but I always risk entering reading slumps if I do finish out books that I don't enjoy or that I'm not enjoying. And I fear that I've already done that twice this month, and I don't know if a third time is going to be the charm towards damnation or if I'd be able to pull through entirely. I've also seen my patrons have very mixed reviews on the book, where some people have really liked it, some people just did not enjoy this at all. Loads of people have DNF'd the book, so it seems to be very all over the place in terms of the reviews. So will basically allow me to connect with this a little bit more, because so far it's been frustrating. I did switch over to the audiobook for Song of the Six Realms. I'm happy to report that the audiobook is definitely a way better reading experience for this book for me personally, rather than reading this physically. I have gotten to page 209 in chapter 28, which is a massive difference to where we were at the start of the last update, which I was in page 70. And at this point in time, I have decided that I will finish the book just because the audiobook really does facilitate the journey for me. However, that doesn't mean that I'm enjoying this as much as I could be. And I think it boils down to, there is this trend at the moment in fantasy books in which authors are really, I believe, dumbing down their characters, but also not giving enough credit to the reader and giving names to things that are supposed to be original, and yet they call it the most obvious and bland. Powers in Powerless, and in here, people who have been touched by celestials, meaning these deities that exist. I need us all to collectively simmer on the spark. Like, you sparkle if you've been touched by a celestial. It's honestly things like this that make me not want to reach for YA fantasy, because it definitely feels like I have far outgrown the type of delivery that this genre has. And it's just very frustrating, even though I nostalgically want to keep going back to it, because the premises sound good and yet the delivery is not so great. I still stand by the facts that the characters are very bland. I think in particular in regards to the character's relationship with her uncle, which seems to be a huge part of the story. I really wish that it would have had a lot more development, and that prior to her current situation, we would have seen a lot of that dynamic take place in the book, because the way that the conversations are established and the reminiscing takes place in the story, it really makes me not care for what is being said and the things being talked about, because we rarely got to see them. And for something that seems to hold so much emotional weight over our main character and the story in general, I really don't care for it because I never got to see it. So that's the first thing that immediately sets this up. It doesn't have a personality. She's the typical confused girl who deludes herself into thinking that these things can't be real because they're supposed to be myth, which is so frustrating. Like, when are we going to allow main characters the agency to actually have good deduction skills? It can't be a ghost, possibly. At one point she sees a celestial and she goes, it can't possibly be a celestial, those are only myth. And the most obvious things, which I think in turn for me as a reader makes it very frustrating, because it seems that I know the obvious answer to an obvious thing while our main character remains extremely oblivious because the author chose for them to. Circumstances are at play is really not something I vibe with anymore, yet I keep trying. I don't know why. My insistence is really my fault and not necessarily the books, because I'm sure that for the audience this is intended for, it wouldn't be an issue at all. This is also said to be a gothic fantasy, which I do think the book is delivering on, and I think it's this book's saving grace. I think when it comes to the aesthetic and the atmosphere of this gothic manor that is supposed to be the celestial realm, I think that aspect I'm really enjoying. And I think especially as our main character, you know, traverses the halls of the manor and she's not quite sure the things that are taking place and she's very unfamiliar with all these things, I really like the vibes that it's giving. But other than that, the story is just okay. And I have found a third just okay book, and I desperately need something that I don't feel just okay toward. I want something that I can love. Song of the Six Realms is done, friends, and I have to say, Sil did me a little dirty, but it's not her fault because this wasn't my TBR. I'm the person that chose the book for the Patreon book club. I am the person that bought the book, the person that was excited about it. So is it really Sil's fault, or did I facilitate this sort of decision making? Whatever the case, I think I'm giving this book 2.5 stars. It was okay for what it was, and it definitely had loads of potential. I find that half of the book I really enjoyed, whilst the other half just kind of fell flat for me. I think that what really worked for me in the story was the atmosphere and the gothic element. I like that whilst our main character, Joie, is staying at the celestial realm, she doesn't quite know what's happening a lot of the time, and she has these weird dreams, and she sees allied to whom, and I think her being very confused about the court politics because it's so far out of what she'd ever get to know. Like, why would she know these things as a mere mortal? I really quite liked that, and I also quite liked the world. I think the world got richer and more detailed the more we went along, which I definitely appreciated, and getting to see all these different deities and celestials and how they relate to each other or how they rival each other and all of the secrets that have been veiled for such a long time. I think that element also really worked for me. I'm glad I read it and that I read an anticipated release. However, so much potential. It could have been so much better. And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just a me thing reading outside of my age demographic holographic, as we say. And now Vin gets to choose. And the question here is, what will she choose between? So let's pick something up. We clearly still have many different options, but what I'm thinking is I can grab the Thursday Murder Club, which did not win when Sil voted for it, so that this can be an option because I'm really looking forward to this book and I'm thinking this could hit the right spot. I'm thinking this could be a good option. Then we have got Leather and Lark, which is the sequel to Butcher and Blackbird, but this can also be read as a standalone. So going to put, which I also think could be a good vibe. It's a fantasy and I've heard really great things about the wrap up of the series and I just really love Rebecca Ross's books. So I am thinking these three right here can be great options for Vin to vote for. Except that the cat in question is lounging and sleeping at the moment, so I'm going to set everything up and then wake a baby up. She's gonna be so mad, but she will get treats, so maybe not so bad. All right, we have got the 3 books laid out, putting up a treat on top of all of them. And Vin, where do you go? Oh, she went immediately for Ruthless Vows. Okay, Babas, thank you for your service. And I love... I've got updates! I have started Ruthless Vows. I am also currently sprinting with you guys on the main channel, which is always super, super fun. And it's honestly been really helpful to get loads of reading done tonight. Happy to report I have made progress with Ruthless Vows. I am about to start chapter 18 on page 136. So good progress is being made. This is really good. I love when a sequel leaves me feeling like it was even better than the first book. And I rated Divine Rivals 4 stars. I had to go check because I wasn't sure, but I remember when I read Divine Rivals, my main qualm with that first book was that I felt that it wasn't developing the fantasy element as in-depth as I would have liked it to, or to show as much is a war between gods. It's not a man-made war, and I would have wanted to see so much more relationship. And I feel book 2 is delivering on all of those things that I would have wanted to see in book 1, plus also this dynamic between Roman and Iris. So the overall premise of the Divine Rivals Letters of Enchantment series is that we follow Iris, who works at a gazette, and she has her nemesis, her rival, called Roman Kid. And both of these people are vying for the exact same correspondent position at their gazette. And also, as part of the dynamic in the first book, is that Iris has been allegedly writing letters to her brother. She's been thinking that all of the letters have made their way to him, and yet she is kind of left stumped at the fact that she never, or what exactly happened, because he had volunteered as a soldier. And lo and behold, it turns out that none of the letters have actually been making their way to him, but instead the person getting the letters is her nemesis, Roman Kid. And it basically follows the two of them as they go to the front lines of said war as correspondents to report on what I really do think that book 1 delivered heavily on that almost dreadful, weighty, heavy feeling that one would feel in a war. And it does a really great job at really showcasing how terrible war is. It doesn't glorify it or paint it in a really hopeful light. There's almost this sense of inevitability and desperation in our characters to meet certain quotas because they know that either death is imminent or that they don't know, they're unsure if they're going to see it tomorrow. And I think book 1 handled all of that really beautifully. And walking into book 2, I already knew that part of the dynamic was going to be observing our 2 lead characters apart before they eventually, you know, meet again and get together again. And it is every bit as heartbreaking as I would have wanted it to be and I was expecting it to be, but it's delivering so well. I typically don't like that separation trope, or another one of the biggest tropes that's happening, particularly for Roman, is not something that I like to read about under any context. It's one of my most hated tropes, and I am really enjoying the way that Rebecca Ross is going about it. It doesn't make it feel like it's going to be resolved in a few pages, it feels as tense as it merits itself to be. It definitely leaves you wondering, how long are we going to spend the time in this book this way? Is it ever going to be restored back to what it was? Are we ever going to see an end to how things look like right now? And I think that uncertainty, which the characters also feel quite strongly, is also something that we as the reader are feeling, which I love. And then also the lore itself for all of the gods is being expanded. We get to see firsthand, you know, these gods go about machinating what's happening, and I really am enjoying that. And I love that even the book starts out in one of the gods' POVs. We don't even start out with Roman or Iris, which I think was honestly quite genius. And so I'm really enjoying this. I was fully expecting to go into this book and not like it, because I made the ridiculous mistake to go watch spoiler-free vlogs where people read this book and also look at Goodreads reviews, and everybody apparently hated this book. I don't know why. I was under the belief that everybody had loved this. People were talking like really fantastic things about it, only to realize that everybody and their mother has hated this book. So I'm surprised that I'm enjoying it. I don't know if maybe going into this with the expectations on the ground, like the bars in hell, baby. I don't know if going into the book that way really just raised my experience, and I'm really enjoying it because of that, but having a good time. I was fully expecting to update you in a different background, but we are here on The Office once more. I promise I know English. I am 80 pages away from finishing Ruthless Vows. I am on chapter 44 now, and this book is getting so good, so action-packed, so tense. You are constantly wondering if these characters are going to make it to the very end, if they're going to be able to live a peaceful life, if all of these ploys will actually work out, and if at the end of the day things will work out the way that they need to, because not only is Dacre the god that is causing this war, the one who wants to take over everything, not only is Dacre incredibly strong, and his forces are also quite plentiful in comparison to Enva's, which is the other side of the war, who basically has no army left, no territory that she is, you know, holding and protecting other than the city itself. It is so damn stressful because all odds are stacked against Enva and the people of Oath, and I am just so freaking terrified for these characters. And I want them to be happy and I want them to survive, but I just don't know if this is gonna be a happy ever after, if the characters are gonna be okay by the end, if Addie and Tobias are gonna get together, if Roman and... This book is so much better, in my personal opinion, than book one. Like, Divine Rivals was great. It was fun. It delivered on like the angst and the romance and the banter between the characters and the rivalry between them, but this is just on another level. I love the tension and the angst that comes from having these two characters apart and not really knowing when they're gonna meet again and come together, and when this whole thing will be resolved, and to know that every day there is danger and you don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. It is all so well built. I think the only thing I can argue against this book is that the magic system itself is not really clear, and I was talking about it with my patrons because we're sprinting right now, and we were talking talking about A River Enchanted, which is Rebecca Ross's adult duology, and how the world in that one seems so strong. The magic system has hard set rules and lines and, you know, like stipulations that we already know, and they're clear from the jump, and the story is very understandable when it comes to its world building. While this is expanding a lot more on the world building of Oath and its people and its lore and the gods and the deities and exactly what happens when you kill a god and what that does to other gods and what were to happen if a human killed a god and is that even a possibility and what does that entail. Even though we are getting loads of development and exposure to those things that we really didn't know in book 1, it still can be confusing at times. I literally ran out of battery, y'all. Please excuse. Yeah, the limitations of the magic system are not really clear in the story, which is a little bit of a bummer. However, everything surrounding that is so good. So I can't complain too much because everything else is really working for me. So this to me is a success. I'm loving this. I can't wait to keep on reading it, and I'm definitely about to sit down and finish this in my next sitting. And I can't believe I literally read this book in 2 sittings. It's crazy, but it's so good. It's so good and it's so easy to read, and what a perfect way to round out the duology. It's just so freaking amazing. 5 stars. 5 stars, friends. This book ripped me a new one, and I really wasn't expecting it. The last 100 or so pages of this book made me so damn emotional, and it's funny because the things I was dreading didn't pan out in the way that I thought they would, but in like the best way possible. And then the things that I was thinking were not gonna happen happened, and I think that made me even sadder. And so well done. Just so freaking well done. I absolutely loved our cast of characters, how they all showed up in the story and how they all remained a constant, from Helena all the way to Marisol and Keegan, to Addie and Tobias, to Roman and Iris, to the parents, to the siblings, Forrest. Just absolutely everybody played such an integral part in the plot all the way to the end of the story, and whatever their fate ended up being, I really loved that we got to see it all. Oh my god, it was just simply too good. I feel like I've been robbed of like proper words to encapsulate how I fully feel about this book, but in my opinion, it was just so much better than Divine Rivals. Like, the stakes feel so much higher, and the emphasis that the book has on journalism and reporting truthfully is just so amazing. And even though we see the characters in kind of similar contexts in book 1 and book 2, there was something about this one that I think felt so much more real in terms of the weight of phenomenal. I am so glad that Vinster, who's right there, she's just leaping at the moment. I am so happy that this is the book she chose, because this went so much better than I was anticipating. I was fully expecting this book to be kind of trash. Again, you guys already know I looked at the reviews and I was very nervous, and we've also finished another series of mine that I was in the middle of, so another series can be taken off my series tracker, which is amazing. So Rebecca Ross, girl, you've done it again, and I absolutely loved this, and it's a great feeling overall when you find a sequel that is even better than the first book. I love that. I love that so much, and it's not often that I find those, and so this just made me very freaking happy. And now we have to make choices for book 3. Okay, I'm gonna give the cats 3 choices, and I'm going to give both cats a choice, and I'm hoping and praying that they both pick the same book. However, if they don't, then we're gonna do another round till there is a consensus so that I can start reading a 3rd book for the video. So let me show you the 3 options. I, of course, had to pull out cat massage therapy because it's a cat video. How can I I not put? So option 1 is going to be Cat Massage Therapy, and then the other 2 books that I put in 2 of the, I guess, polls for the cats that didn't win. So Thursday Murder Club and then Leather and Lark. So let's lay these out and see what the cats choose for me to read. Curious to see if they're gonna be like attracted more towards like a cat on the cover. I don't even know if that's gonna make any difference. Let's put up the treats. All right, y'all, we have got the 3 options on the floor. I'm laying down the first 3 treats. And let's see, Vin, choose one. Oh, the Thursday Murder Club. Is this a consensus? Because both of them are just going in on cat massage therapy. Yeah, mama, que rico. Wow. Okay, I just got the cats out of the office. Let's do this again. So I'm going to lay these 3 treats on top of the box, and then I'm gonna put a treat like art. This is really not promising, y'all. I feel like they're just gonna eat all the treats around them. Let's see. And that's the only overlap thus far. So we're gonna go for cat massage therapy. I think the cats chose right because this was the exact boost of serotonin I needed after such a good cry in Ruthless Vow about cat masseuses. Now, I wish there was more substance that I could talk about in here, but there's literally not. So often people who work typical corporate jobs or regular 9-to-5 in Japan are very much overworked, and there is a huge culture surrounding working overtime, not leaving before your boss does, and just working yourself to the bone so that you can say that you've provided something to society, to say that you did something of value to their jobs and, again, society in general. And so basically the setup for this is that we have this massage place that incidentally all of its masseuses got kittens, 3 kittens specifically, who are the trainees, and he falls in love with the place. The cat gives him like loads of tips on how to de-stress and stretch so that he feels better on a day-to-day so that they can get more business, and that is the entire plot of this thing. Wholesome, super funny, super ridiculous sometimes. At the end, we get like an assistant manager, the acting manager, who literally looks like the most evil cat ever, but it's like so wholesome too. Just ridiculous in all of the right ways. Loved this. 5 stars. The cats chose well. And that is it for today, friends. I hope you enjoyed the cats choosing my TBR, what I read for a week. Honestly, a little bit of an up and down. I was even hoping to maybe squeeze in a 4th book in here, but I figured it's time to start out the next vlog and to move on. However, we did find 2 new favorite things through this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up down below and comment down below what you've read this past week. Have you found any new good books? As we can see, the first pet did me a little bit dirty. Ready for more content like this, and as always, if you guys want to support the channel further, helps keep things afloat alongside the rest of my social media. I love you guys so much, and I shall see you on the next one.